Welcome back to the Themes to Be Seen podcast. I'm Matt Klaus.
I'm Tara Kostick.
And we actually won't be breaking down a movie in this episode. This is about us. This is about the podcast, who we are, why we do this, etc. We are a couple. Tara Kostick is my girlfriend. We've been together for now slightly over a year and a half.
We met in 2016 at a Halloween party, but life just,
right.
It doesn't work out.
But you were living halfway across the country at that time. But
then I moved back to Michigan, and life finds a way.
Yeah. Sometimes. Oh, you just gold.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I found my apartment here, actually, on apartments.com.
Oh.
So thank you, Jeff Goldblum.
Big shout out to Jeff Goldblum.
I owe a lot to him.
Yeah. We love movies. Mm-hmm. No offense to Steve Sadak and Andrew Jubin and those guys. But we love movies. We feel that there are a lot of movies that don't get their just desserts, or are loved, but for a slightly different reason than they should be. We are film intellectuals, both of us, in different ways.
We both took film classes in college.
Yep. I took film theory classes, whereas you had more photography and the technical aspect.
Both, a mixture of both,
right.
I guess.
And the first 6 months of our relationship was just the two of us exchanging, what? How have you not seen that?
Yeah. I mean, we still do that too, though.
Yeah.
We still come across movies and we're like, you've never seen that?
Right.
But what we always do is we'll just watch a movie and then we just talk about it afterwards, and we're like, why don't we, put that into something?
Right. Why don't we have a podcast where we talk about movies the way we do? So what you hear on our episodes is usually things we say we just have said to each other on the couch watching a movie, or slightly after watching the movie, and the episodes are just us actually doing a little extra research, writing down, taking notes, doing things like that, and then relaying that information.
And not that we're exactly film snobs either. We enjoy bad movies as well.
We enjoy movies that are actually, like, each of us individually like movies that are actually bad. Not just, and we're not just saying movies that are so bad they're good. Like, you can always say, oh yeah, I actually like the movie The Room because it's funny, it's so bad it's good. But there are bad movies that we both like too.
Yeah, I grew up watching Mystery Science Theater.
Yes.
So I've always enjoyed watching bad movies just for fun and making fun of them. And yeah, I feel like that's something we do a lot.
And I grew up watching Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so I remember Elvira. I remember Joe Bob Briggs.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's one that people bring up that I didn't even know about, that I never even knew about.
The first time I ever saw The Exorcist was on TV, watching Joe Bob Briggs, and I think that's why it's a scary movie, but I've never really been horrified by it. I think because I first saw it on TV and he was always like goofy and stuff, so
back in the days of analog bunny ear antennas, both sides, my mom and my dad were divorced, and neither had very much money, but PBS was always available. And I loved PBS, and Elvira's show was actually on PBS for a short time. And that's where I could find her. That's where I could watch something that I wanted to watch. Was 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday night, she would show a really bad horror movie. And I also had a babysitter, and not just a babysitter. She was like my daycare lady, but it was literally just me and her 90% of the time. She had other kids that came in and out, but they were never there as much as I was. So my parents were divorced, and they both worked a lot. But this lady and her husband have, when I say thousands of movies, thousands and thousands of movies, VHS, and at the time DVD was starting to come out, and they were just starting to put out old bad movies on DVD, and stuff was getting re-released from a long time ago, and she really introduced me to the difference between quality or entertainment for fun and entertainment for quality.
Mm-hmm.
And she showed me the difference, and she explained why bad movies can still be fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I give her all the credit in the world. Also, my mom, who's been a filmophile her whole life. If it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have the background in old black and white films. Bette Davis and Gone with the Wind and Audrey Hepburn. Because of my mom, my 15-year-old sister, who you wouldn't think of someone nowadays being 15 and enjoying black and white movies, her idol is Audrey Hepburn. And not just evidenced by, oh, she has a shirt or something. Her entire room is these big, beautiful photo shots of Audrey Hepburn, and it's all pink. So, I have a lot of influences, film-wise.
I love scary movies. I would say that's my favorite genre.
That is your niche.
I have probably been watching them from an age I shouldn't have been.
Oh, yeah.
My mom used to wake up in the middle of the night. We used to have cable, and I was probably 4 or 5, and she would catch me and my brother and sister all under one blanket right in front of the TV watching scary movies at like 3 a.m. And so she ended up having to get rid of the cable. But the first movie I ever received at the age of 5 was a movie called Dolls, where it's a Stuart Gordon movie where basically dolls kill bad people, and I used to collect porcelain dolls when I was little. So
that's terrifying.
Yeah, but
See what I
I
did
always
there?
believed that if I was nice to the dolls, they wouldn't hurt me. The Nightmare on Elm Street movies were huge
I watched,
growing up.
Yes, my dad and I. That was one of the, in the days of VHS box covers at the video stores, my dad and I would rent.
Oh, I miss those days. Going to a video store
And just looking at box covers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember just being fascinated by so many, and I wish I could remember what all the covers were.
Right. One of the most iconic ones that you always saw it, but I don't think anybody ever rented it, but you always saw it was probably House. With the zombie hand ringing the doorbell, like that's it.
Or the Dead Alive one with the woman.
The skull coming out of the woman.
Opening her mouth.
And there's a little skull in her mouth. Yeah, like there's a lot of that era. So my dad would rent these low budget B movies or things of that nature, and I would watch them with him way before I should have been. There was a time where we didn't have any money, and it was particularly cheap. So it's something he and I could do together, enjoy together, that we really didn't have to go too far out of our way to do.
Yeah, my aunt, when we all lived in Bay City, she lived really close to a video store, and my cousin his room was like up in their attic, and he had all these huge posters given to him from the store. He had like Nightmare on Elm Street 4, like Demons Part 2, and I used to be scared to go up into his room because he just had all these like gigantic scary movie posters, but I've always been thrilled by them. And then when I was a teenager and my parents started making a little bit more money and we got cable and stuff like that, And that's when I was introduced to Turner Classic Movies because we
Yes.
suddenly had that channel.
I also
And-
watched that at a young age, where like you would be watching it at an age that when your parents walked in, they would be they'd really like,
Yeah,
and
well,
I got that a
I
lot.
used to watch them with my mom. My mom would call it watching dead people. My mom has kind of a morbid sense of humor. But I always thought TCM was cool too because on Sunday nights they would show old scary movies.
Freaks has always been
Mhm.
has always had a special place in my heart because of some of the progressive way it showed people with disabilities. It showed people with disabilities in this human way at a time where they were thought of as being not even people. And the first time I ever saw that was on TCM.
And then with the internet coming into play, I joined some movie forums, like JoeBlow.com was a huge one, and Arrow in the Head was like the partnership, that was the horror side. And that's when I started getting into more like European horror movies, the Argento, the
Giallo.
Fulci, yeah, all those disgusting old horror
Because
movies.
they were super. European horror movies were super gory.
Yeah.
Like out of control gory. Like almost. I mean, not almost, but the same thing happened in Asia at about the same time with like Kurosawa, and his squirting blood, his spraying blood effects, and at a certain point, it all just like everybody had the same idea across the world of let's see how far we can push this, and that's something that happened. But at the time the internet was coming out, I wasn't getting farther into movies. I was getting farther into stage. So I was acting. I was doing behind the scenes work for stage productions, plays, musicals. I was in many. I was recognized not quite a few times, but a few times for my acting and my singing and things like that. And I guess I felt like I grew out of it at a certain point. That I wasn't going to go anywhere with it. There's so many people doing this. It's really competitive. I'm never going to get ahead doing it. So I just stopped. There's a time where I just like put my hands up and stopped. But I've always enjoyed the stage. Watching the stage. I've seen tons and tons of stage productions. Phantom of the Opera was really amazing to watch. They did this really cool effect with a staircase where the staircase was on like a scissor lift, and they're running up these stairs, but the stairs are alternatively scissoring back and forth, so it looks like they're running up a spiral staircase, but really it's the same 2 flights of stairs moving up alternatively.
Oh.
And I thought it was just such a cool effect. I've tried to watch a lot of plays on stage, like videoed. I've probably seen Rent on stage 6 times in person. I was Roger in an off-Broadway, like a traveling production. That was a fun thing. I played Roger. But that was, when the internet came into play, I wasn't focused on film as much as I was stage, and that's one of the reasons when I say I'm an aspiring director, I feel like I could bring that stage to a screen in my head. I'd really like to direct because of that. So where are we going from there? So after the internet, your forums.
Yeah, and then when I learned to drive, I used to spend a lot of time at Best Buy and Media Play, just blind buying movies.
I would go to FYE
Yeah.
here in Bay City, and I have a lot of friends, like that are still friends, who used to work at that FYE that I would just stand there and talk to. We would talk and talk and talk about movies and TV shows, and I'd be like, well, I ran out of stuff to watch because I couldn't personally afford the internet or anything. And the managers and the assistant managers would go, here, this is good, and there would be a CD or season of a TV show that they would hand to me and go, "Here, this is good. Buy this. If you don't like it, bring it back in a couple days, and we'll help you out." And I ended up liking everything they handed me. Everything. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have started watching Preacher, and I loved Preacher. Haven't gotten to see the full second or third season, but
It's
that
so
first season's
hard
awesome.
now because there's so much like stuff out there. It's hard to keep up with.
Well, we were just having a conversation about how the quality of things coming out just in this past few months has been so high.
Yeah, for years it just seemed like
Nothing was worth
nothing,
it.
everything. I mean, there's still a lot of remakes coming out. I just read there's gonna be yet another remake of Black Christmas, which makes me angry because I love the original from the 70s.
I like the original from the 70s, and the early 2000s remake wasn't that bad. It wasn't the original. It was meant to be a different movie from the original, but it wasn't horrible. It was...
I felt like the original had a lot of substance to it that was kind of unexpected. It dealt with some pretty serious themes, and I know with this new remake, I read a synopsis that said with this generation of women, these women won't be easy victims, but I didn't get that impression from the 70s version of the movie. Like, I don't know.
Actually, a couple of the ones that died in the 70s version died in the way they died because they were trying to fight back.
Yeah.
Like the ice skate. Isn't that the one where she gets hit in the head with the ice skate? And she's like, that's how she had it like in her hand in case somebody attacked her.
No, I think I'm confusing that with another movie called Curtains. There's an ice skating scene.
Oh.
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. Like, but I remember, like, Phyllis goes because she's going to check on the inebriated girl that's, like, passed out in her bedroom to make sure she's okay, and I don't know. I just didn't... That movie didn't give the impression that these characters were weak in any way, so...
And then there's also movies that we like, that people who say... people who would refer to themselves as a film intellectuals, as we would, like with our show, you should not like. These films, you could say they're not good movies, but we still like them. Like, not good at all. Like, not good, even good bad.
Like, which movies are you talking about?
Let me think. See, I really like Michael Jai White films. There's one called Blood and Bone that it's not a good movie. The action, the fight choreography is awesome, as it would be in any Michael Jai White film. Some of the action, or some of the acting, not so great. Bob Sapp, who is a former mixed martial arts fighter from the early 2000s, he was kind of a novelty fighter who fought in Japan mostly, is in that movie. His acting is not good. It's not good. But I like that movie a lot. You got Julian Sands, who everything after like the 90s that Julian Sands did most of the time, he's just not worth watching. He's Julian Sands in every movie. It's a lot like another actor I talk about. What else? Oh, see, Michael Jai White also made Black Dynamite, which is purposefully bad. Like it's a deconstruction of blaxploitation movies, which it caught a lot of heat for some of the things that it like, oh, because it's a blaxploitation movie, it has to be bad. So he did this parody of blaxploitation movies called Black Dynamite, and it's hilarious.
I feel like it had a pretty good reputation when it came out.
All I heard was bad things.
Really?
All the reviews I saw were bad.
Oh, wow.
And it doesn't make any sense because it's so good. I love it so much. There's a scene where this bad guy is just standing there, and he's this like super early 20th century racist iteration of an Asian man with like the Fu Manchu mustache and the robe, and the window breaks and he falls over, and Black Dynamite opens the door and jumps in, picks up a boomerang and yells, "I threw that shit before I even came in the room!" It's one of the funniest scenes. I laughed so hard I almost peed.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot even explain to you how funny I thought that was at the time. And I could probably still watch that movie again and laugh just as hard.
I've only seen it once, and it was when it first came out, and I barely remember anything about
Hey.
it.
How'd you know he was a bad guy? Because donuts don't wear alligator shoes. Like, it's such a good line.
Who would you say is your favorite director?
Oh, shit. Don't do that.
I feel like people would want to know, if we're talking about movies, they want to know the movies that inspire us.
If we're looking at quality of every single frame, if you're looking at overall average quality of every single frame, it would probably Nicholas Winding Refn. Like, in that sense, because he is so meticulous. He's like one step below Kubrick in how, but if we're looking at overall, like, how much I connect with the director as a person, it's probably Jordan Peele. I've followed him since I was a really little kid. I loved him on Mad TV. Key and Peele was my favorite show on television for years, 7 years, and now he's doing his own films, and it's crazy to see somebody over 20 years make such a big impact and see how hard they work, see the things they had to go through, see the ridiculous things they had to do to get them to a point to do what they wanted to do. And I'm proud of him. I'm proud to say I've always been his fan, because Get Out is, if you have a chance, listen to our episode on Get Out. It's so meticulously put together, and there's so much detail and love put into that movie. And then Us, we had a special event for the premiere of Us. A, because we felt that it was going to be a significant film.
Mm-hmm.
And B, because I love Jordan Peele so much. I feel like he is a special kind, because when you see his films and you see how intelligently and meticulously they're put together, you don't expect him to still be as funny of an individual while he's talking as he is. And I relate to that heavily.
The Us event was kind of like a dream come true.
It was a joke. It was a joke
Yeah,
at
it did
first.
start as a joke, but being a big movie lover, I've always loved just talking about movies with people. That's how, I am not an outgoing person. I'm pretty shy, but if you want to get me to open up, start talking about movies.
That's one of the differences in our relationship. Tara is a very introverted person. She's not outgoing. She's not very loud in social situations. I stand on tables and yell at people. If I've always felt like if the lights are on me and eyes are on me and people are listening to me, that's where I want to be.
That's not where I want to be.
I am. Please listen to me saying things, and I don't know. Like I've always had this kind of loud at the party, let's do stupid things kind of attitude, and I guess it's being an only child for as long as I was. I was doing, especially to divorced parents, I was doing whatever I possibly could for attention. So when I realized that there were things that I could do, I could be funny, I could act, I could sing, and then guess what? If I do those things on a stage, people have to look at me, because there's nothing else happening in the room. So.
Yeah, so I always have loved talking about movies. Growing up at every family function for the holidays. We would spend a lot of time talking about movies, and so the US event was a little hard for me, just having to get up in front of people, but I also enjoy bringing people together. It's what I do for work as well. Like, I do a lot of events and stuff. But we just wanted to get a bunch of movie lovers together and have a discussion afterwards.
Even if they weren't movie lovers, just friends.
Yeah.
Just people who, you don't have to love movies particularly.
Mm-hmm.
You could just be a fun person, have fun talking to people, or
Yeah.
have fun saying what you thought, or
Mm-hmm.
like we have one friend who's a personality. He's a card, a character, if you will. He doesn't like scary movies particularly, and he came,
Mm-hmm.
and it freaked him out. But afterwards, he was one of the most fun parts of the discussion.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it started off as a joke.
Oh yeah, we should say. So Us is coming out. Wouldn't it be cool if we could like do what we want to do on our podcast, only live in front of people?
Yeah, we were laughing it off because we were like, first of all, we probably can't with a brand new movie coming out.
Right.
And then we were like, oh, it's probably going to be like a couple $100.
That's going to be so ridiculously expensive. And I made the call, and the guy told me how much it would be. I mean, I actually called 3 theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And one theater never called me back. The second theater, because I was like, let's go big and lofty. So the first time I called the local Bay City theater.
Mm-hmm.
And they never called me back. Second time I was like, oh, let's go super big and lofty. And I called Birch Run. And yes, that was a couple $100.
Uh-huh.
And then I called the GDX there in Saginaw, and the guy was super cool. He helped us out a lot, and he told us the price, and it was manageable. It was and he said the price. He said the price, and I looked at Tara and I went, "Oh, what?" And I'm on the phone, but I'm looking at her, and I was like, "Really? That's it? Okay, well, I'm gonna call you back in like an hour." And we talked. That's all it took, and we put our money down, and hopefully we want to do another one soon. We thought Ari Aster, who's another horror director we really, really like because he is so tiny in his detail. He aims small to miss small. And he's also a fantastic writer. His next film comes out on 4th of July weekend, I believe.
I think so.
And we loved Hereditary. And his next movie, we wanted to do his next movie, but we thought it was coming out at the end of August.
Mm-hmm.
And then it wrapped way early. They got post done, so they were like, screw it, let's put it out earlier. And so now it's coming out way too soon. We'd probably need about 3 months to do it more correctly this time.
Yeah, because I feel like that movie, too, it's not like a really big name or anything.
See, with Jordan Peele, we had the Us name helping us.
Mm-hmm.
We had Us helping. We had the movie Us helping us promote.
Mm-hmm.
With Midsommar, you would have to explain to people, well, did you like Hereditary? Wasn't that a good movie? This is from the same writer and director.
Yeah.
So the challenge of doing another live event would be being able to do a movie that's thematically significant, but also a big enough name that people would actually want to go see it with us. We had some technical difficulties. A really good friend, the legendary Saginaw DJ Fade, lent us a couple microphones. And we also had a couple speakers. And one was one kind of hookup, and the other was a different kind of hookup, so our microphones were null and void when we got there. Couldn't even use them.
Which was horrible for me because I'm a very soft-spoken person, and this meant I was gonna have to like project my voice somehow.
I literally walked over to my one buddy who was helping us out, and Tara, and I said, "Well, I guess we're gonna have to speak from the chest." And it was, but I mean, it worked out. The people we had excellent people. And
yeah, a lot of people participated.
Engaging in the conversation and pointing things out. It was awesome.
Yeah.
If you were at our first event, thank you so much. A lot of you are people who we also support in their endeavors. A lot of you are very close personal friends. We want to thank you all for coming to support us. We hope you come to the next one. We don't know what the next one's going to be yet, but we hope when we have another one we can get even more people and even more of a turnout. That way we can have even more of a discussion.
I don't know. We hung out there until like 3 or 4 a.m.
We did hang out until like 3. It was at, technically doors were at midnight, and then our movie started at about 20 after. And then after the movie we probably had discussion for 45 minutes or more. It was really awesome, and I hope it goes on for. I hope we have way more people and it goes on for longer next time, because it was super cool. If you see a movie coming up that you think might be thematically significant, might have some underlying tones or a lot of symbolism used or anything like that, point it out, show us, tell us, comment, email us, scream it at my apartment window. She wasn't stopping me, so I was going to keep going.
So what would you say is your biggest guilty pleasure?
Oh, biggest guilty pleasure. Oh, I don't know. See, but I don't think of it as a guilty. What would you say? Wait, what would you say is my biggest guilty pleasure? Because all the time I'll be like, oh my god, I love this movie, and you go, really?
Oh, that This Is the End movie?
Oh my god, I love This Is the End.
I don't understand.
There's nothing wrong with that movie. What?
I don't know.
It's not a guilty pleasure because in no way am I fucking guilty.
I don't know. Maybe I was just getting annoyed with that whole group of actors after a while.
Well, because they did a lot of stuff together.
Yeah.
And then even after that, they made The Night Before.
I've never seen it.
It's not as good as this movie. It's not. Anthony Mackie is great, and Seth Rogen is great, but at that particular point in time, I just needed James Franco to take a nap.
Which he did in lots of his college classes.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I really like This Is the End, and I feel like you should rewatch it.
I don't know.
Because there's a lot more going on there than you do. You watched it and you were like, oh my god, this is so dumb. Stupid ass Danny.
I like Danny McBride, but I've been disappointed in some of his recent works. Like, he's been doing more writing, like,
Alien Covenant.
Oh god, that was awful. He wrote the last Halloween movie, which I had a lot of problems with it throughout, but I really liked the ending of it. I just
Halloween
felt like
2018?
Yeah.
You had a lot of problems with it? I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, I thought there were scenes that didn't need to be in there. Like, they could have trimmed it down a lot more, but I really liked the ending.
Oh, yeah. No, the whole... when the main ideas of the film came together, it was excellent. And if you consider that... If you watched Halloween, 1979? 1978?
78.
78? And then you watch Halloween 2018... I feel like if you cut everything in between out, it's the best way to watch those. You watch the first one, and you watch this last one, and forget all the other ones. I met somebody the other day who said they're a fan of Halloween H2O. And
I like Halloween H2O.
Why? Why? Oh God, why?
I think Halloween, the original Halloween, Part 2, and H2O are a good trilogy. If you cut everything else out, I think those 3 movies work well.
See, I think you should just watch 1 and 2018, and that should be the only 2.
You also don't know what Josh Hartnett meant to me in those years of my life, okay?
Josh Hartnett?
Yes. I will never forget.
Faculty?
Oh my god. I will never forget when I first saw him in The Faculty.
I actually really like The Faculty.
I do too.
But like at that time, there were like really cool teen horrors coming out that time. 'Cause, Disturbing Behavior is probably
Yeah.
still one of my favorite like teen horror
I haven't
movies.
seen that in so
Oh,
long.
that's a good one. Katie Holmes before she got kidnapped by that guy.
I miss Nick Stahl sometimes. He was a really good actor.
He was a good actor. Yeah. Disturbing Behavior was good. Idle Hands came out at about that time. Which, I mean, the debut of a futurely Jessica Alba at the time in Idle Hands.
Futurely.
Which, like, she wasn't Jessica Alba as we know her then. Like, she was just a young actress. And then to find out she became this huge thing. But, in that movie, she gets dropped into an exhaust fan. And just, like, she gets murdered by falling into a giant exhaust fan.
I thought she survived in that movie.
I don't think so.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure she dies because I went, wow. Seth Green in that movie, walking around with the bottle sticking out of his head.
Seth Green was really popular at that time.
See, but Seth Green was doing good stuff at that time. That was prior to the Austin Powers movies, and I feel like that's the time where he stopped.
Was that all around the same time? I think so.
No.
The first Austin Powers was like 97.
Yeah, he wasn't in that.
Yes, he was.
He was only in 2.
No.
2 and 3?
No.
Really?
He was in the first one.
Huh. But I feel like that's why he went more towards stuff like Robot Chicken. I like Robot Chicken.
I do too.
Yeah. I feel like there's some smart things. They get criticized for being dumb, but they're really intelligent about the dumb shit they say. What else? Who else? Guilty pleasures. Throw another one at me. What are my guilty pleasures?
Why don't you ask me something?
Well, you just said you like Josh Hartnett. I thought that was good enough. What else?
What's bad about that?
His haircut.
Oh my god, it was bad in that movie.
It was bad in all his movies.
I didn't know better.
Okay, what's another one of your guilty pleasures?
I really like a lot of 80s slasher movies.
That's not a guilty pleasure though, because so do I. Like, that's not guilty. There's a lot of people that like 80s.
Well, it's a hard question for me to answer then. What about, like a horrible movie like Neon Maniacs that doesn't even have an ending?
We already talked about good, bad movies though. Which, by the way, go on YouTube. If you like movies like that, there's a YouTube channel called Good Bad Flicks that he does really good deconstruction.
I love Spice World. But let's move on. So
I saw Spice World in theaters.
Really?
I did. It happened.
Oh, that's funny.
I saw 2 Spice Girl CDs.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the other thing we were... Oh, I know guilty pleasures for you.
What?
So, my girlfriend, who I feel is one of the few people I've ever met that's more intelligent when it comes to film than I am, once handed me a film from Japan called Hausu. And she said, it's in the Criterion Collection, it's super influential and significant, and she left it here with me, and then she left, and I watched maybe 8 full minutes of this movie, and I at that point, I already? No more.
I can't believe you.
It was the most nonsensically ridiculous, like, I would have to drink a couple of tall, cool glasses of water to be able to watch it. There is no way, 0 way, I'd be able to watch that movie.
I have a few other Criterions here that you have never watched.
Like what?
Well, we did watch Eating Raoul.
Yes, we did.
Walkabout.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't. Walkabout. Did you just say walk around?
Walkabout.
Walkabout is an actual part of Australia. It's like a geographic place. Walk around.
Walk around.
What do you do when you get to the walkabout? Walk around.
But yeah, speaking of Halloween, John Carpenter is definitely one of my favorite directors.
Mine also.
There was just that period, like in the late 70s and 80s, that he was on fire.
Well, there was a long time there where we had the masters of horror.
Mm-hmm.
We had directors who did horror in a way where they felt horror should be recognized as a legitimate form of film, even when, like we say, movie intellectuals and critics and what have you were looking down their nose at horror or scary films at all. And they did that they did horror movies in such a way that you couldn't deny that it was good film. You couldn't say, oh, it's a bad, it's okay to watch, but it's still a horror movie. It's not as good as.
Mm-hmm.
And John Carpenter and a couple other guys at that time threw that right out the window. You had movies like, well, some of his movies caught bad criticism for no reason.
Like what?
Did the dog just fart again?
Yes.
So we're, like 4 for 5 on the dog farting mid-episode. Elvis is our 10-year-old. We're only assuming on his breed, but he's definitely part Jack Russell. We're thinking Bull Terrier mix.
Yeah, definitely.
We adopted him when he was 10 years old.
In October of 2018.
Yep. He's just now. We're almost had him for a year, and he's just now like getting the hang of having a family. He's just now fallen into the groove of knowing for a fact that these people love him, and the only thing about him is he's an old man. He's stubborn. He's very stubborn, like almost mean stubborn sometimes, and he passes gas in such a way that you are forced to leave the room. So on a couple of our episodes, you'll notice us kind of talking about it, refer to it, but really, you should be proud of the determination to carry on with the episode after something like that happens. Luckily for me, he always lays over by her chair while we're recording.
Yay, lucky me. But yeah, ever since adopting him, pretty much I feel like our lives have changed a lot because almost everything we do basically revolves around him and just trying to show him the world that he might have never seen before, taking him on adventures.
Right.
Because there's so much we'll never know about him and we don't think he was treated very kindly. It took him so long to even hold eye contact with us.
Even we couldn't touch him. He wouldn't let. We couldn't pet him. He would move away from us.
Mm-hmm.
But he's doing good now. Now when we're recording these episodes, I don't know if you can ever hear him snoring or whatever, but he's always laying on the floor between us, and he's sleeping or hanging out or just looking at us.
Yeah.
He's always in the room.
We also have Freddie, the rock and roll guinea pig.
He's kind of a jerk.
He's a diva.
I am not allowed to pet Freddie. And not because Tara told me I can't. It's because anytime I put my hand near Freddie, he runs in his little house. Like, he does not want me to pet him at all. What were we talking about before the animals came into play?
I guess some of my favorite directors.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were talking about the Masters of Horror.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Carpenter is amazing. He did all his own music.
Yeah.
The music for everything that he directed he made
almost
also.
Everything.
Well, almost in a general sense. What else?
Like I would say.
Oh, movies that caught bad criticism. His movies that caught bad criticism, even though there was no need for it. The Fog.
Oh, I love The Fog.
I watched The Fog for the first time with you, and I remember reading things about it, about how some of the story didn't make sense because this and this didn't happen, and this didn't make sense, and it's not like that at all. Like,
it was a classic ghost story, and I think at the time, it was probably just different from everything else he had done up to that point. But yeah, I love The Fog. Don't ever watch the remake.
The remake, yeah.
It was abysmal. I saw it in theaters.
Any horror movie remake that came out between 2002 and 2011. Don't even bother. Don't even bother, because at that time, movie ratings boards were being so super strict, and movie studios were refusing to let anything have a hard R. So you get these watered down, incorrect
PG-13
cash grab remakes.
R-rated movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so recently, in an effort to, Tara said to me, let's watch that Friday the 13th, that 2009 Friday the 13th remake, and we can laugh at how bad it is. Didn't get to laugh at it, did we, Tara?
No, and I was so excited when it came out because before it came out, a documentary about the Jason movies called His Name Was Jason came out, and they brought back a ton of the cast members from the original movies, and they talked about each movie, and then they had cast members from the new movie, and they were on there like, you guys are gonna love it, it's so scary. And I thought the preview was really good too, and I saw it in theaters, and I just wanted to walk out. I was so angry about it, and then I was like, oh, maybe like a decade has passed, maybe I can laugh at it now. No, it's just so bad.
Well, I was physically angry.
Yeah.
As someone who maybe not has seen as many of the original, like, Paramount Friday the 13th as you, I still have a great respect for the first one. And now, between you had me watch 3, which you said was your favorite. Some people say it's their favorite, some people say 3 is their least favorite. I didn't have a problem with it. I saw some really, really good points in it. Especially, like, the little spots where Jason looks like he's having a lot of fun killing people. Like, he looks like he's having fun killing people in that one. And, we're both avid players of the game.
Yes.
And so I respect it as a franchise. I felt like that 2009 remake disrespected the entire rest of the franchise. Now we have Jason running like, ooh, I'm gonna, like, we've seen Jason running before, but he usually has this very determined gait, this very straight line. I'm coming directly after you. In that 2009 remake, he's running with his arms flayed around like, ooh, I'm gonna get you. And then he's setting, like, Saw-style traps.
He's
and
taking hostages.
Jason don't take hostages. The whole idea behind him is he sees people around his lake, and he kills them.
They didn't even try to do anything with the original theme. There was some awful music in it.
They completely skipped one. One was a cold open. The story of Friday the 13th 1 was a cold open for the rest of the movie. And they completely skipped, like, Friday the 13th Part 2 was like 10 minutes of the movie. Like, there's a whole story of Friday the 13th Part 2 that they turn into 10 minutes of a movie. And then they basically skip all of it and rewrite 3 for some reason, but it's not good. It was not good. I'm actually getting
all
angry.
those movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was being
that was
remade.
way earlier than.
Which
another master of horror, Tobe Hooper, for years and years and years was just thought of as this really intense guy who would make awesome horror movies. We had Tobe Hooper, John Carpenter. Who else did we have at the time?
We had Wes Craven.
Oh my God, Wes Craven.
Joe Dante.
See, Joe Dante did, like, fun family stuff, though.
Yeah, but he
Like,
did
it was
like
like
The Howling.
Well, like
and-
horror comedies too. Like he
Yeah.
did the Gremlins movies
Mhm.
and what was it, The Gate?
Oh,
Gate.
I loved that movie.
A very, very young Ethan Hawke in The Gate, if you ever
It was
watched that.
Stephen Dorff.
Oh, Stephen Dorff!
Yeah.
What's the one with Ethan Hawke?
Um.
Oh, that's the Space Travelers one. Oh, yeah. Okay. What was the other one that you just said a name?
Wes Craven.
What? Well, after Wes Craven.
I only said 2 names.
Oh. Never mind. But recently, that idea that we've had Masters of Horror has come back. I know we only have 2 right now, but it seems like that's a good trend to see, that we may have directors who are focusing on elevating the horror genre higher, because we have Jordan Peele, who's making these really intelligent, thematic.
Thematic?
Yeah.
Thematic.
There's an A in there, isn't there?
No.
Well, there is not. Movies that have this social undertone. He even calls them social horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Ari Aster, who's making these Stanley Kubrick style movies that focus on these minute details.
Hopefully. I mean, we've only seen one of his movies.
But Hereditary was so... Like
I
said,
know, but I'm so worried because you had, like, the M. Night Shyamalan... Who was the dude that made Donnie Darko and then just pretty much made a few bad extra movies and disappeared?
I don't know. He looked around Hollywood and all he saw was familiar faces.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, but Shyamalan was doing well. He did that to himself, though.
Mm-hmm. I did like a few of his other movies after The Sixth Sense, so...
He certainly angered us with that last movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you saw my review on Facebook of Glass, I was not happy. I was not happy. I wrote a pretty heated, scathing review on Glass. Not on the Themes to Be Seen page, but on my private page. I was angry. I was not happy. Because Unbreakable was an excellent film. Wonderful film. Split was a wonderful film. And then that third movie just...
Yeah, I don't
what is
like to
wrong
think
with
about it. I don't know.
Because every once in a while he'll make a really, really good movie. Oh, M. Night Shyamalan's back. And then he'll make a movie like that. And it's angering. So, that's just some stuff about us. We're just kind of riffing at this point, just so you get to know how we go about this, what we talk about, how we find these influences, and what we put into every episode. Hopefully you like every episode. You don't have to like every episode. You can like some episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But you should still give us 5 stars on Facebook. You should really go on Facebook and give us 5 stars, because that would help us out a lot. Rate, review, comment, high five, poke us on Facebook if is that even still a thing?
I don't know. If you have a podcast that you want us to listen to, let us know.
If you have a podcast, you know what? There's this big thing right now about how people who are just starting out go on already established like podcasts, websites, and streams and Twitters and things, and then they self-promote. It's not cool if you do that on somebody who's already really established and has a big name for themselves, and you try to self-promote on their pages or social medias. I guess that's not cool. But for us, with us, if you are just starting out a podcast, you want us to listen, you enjoy our podcast, let us know. Send us some info. We'll put it right up on our podcast page. Hey, check these people out too. There's another podcast in the area that we see the guys every now and then. The Matty Ice and Marky Mark podcast. And they're fun guys, they're funny guys, they're super intelligent. They have very opinionated views on things. They're fun to listen to. So listen to them also. I'd like to... You alright, Dave? I'd like to meet more people that have podcasts, meet more people that have short shows or web shows or talk about things. It doesn't matter what it's about. And let's get a mid-Michigan Podfest going. Like, 'cause it seems like every other region of the country has some sort of Podfest. New York has podcast awards. So let's do it. It'll be fun. There's people talking about stuff. We were highly influenced by We Hate Movies. We were very influenced by. I'm very influenced by We Hate Movies. I feel like those guys do a really good job of holding a hour-and-a-half long conversation that you want to listen to all of it, and you get in on inside jokes, and you learn about these movies, or you hear about a movie that you thought you loved, and then all these bad things, you go back and go, oh man, that didn't hold up, like with us in Final Destination.
Yeah.
We oh man, that was a big deal when it came out. Oh yeah, I thought it was pretty good, and then we went back and it just didn't hold up. So shout out to those guys for kind of inspiring us a little bit.
Yeah.
You look like you want to say something, which is the point of having a microphone.
I was just gonna say I'm inspired by them, and also my other favorite
Here we go.
podcast is
Okay, yep.
it's the What's the Tea podcast with RuPaul and Michelle Visage.
RuPaul, if you hear this, please get a hold of us. Like,
No, I'm inspired by people that no matter how busy they are, they find the time to,
connect
make
with
things happen, or to
Um,
still put effort into the things that they're passionate about. And despite all the things, like RuPaul is always working, and he still has, time for this podcast and stuff.
Not only that, but he's this legendary figure.
Mm-hmm.
Been around forever. And a podcast is something that seems so small and intimate to do, but it is a personal way to connect with fans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he could be just doing Drag Race and just doing these movies that he's been showing up in, and be fine. But this podcast is a more intimate communication between him and his fans, and I think that it's a cool, humble way to be closer to the people who are big fans and love you.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a good show. I've listened to it with you quite a few times, and there was a lot of really good episodes, and some people, he has guests on guests that you actually want to hear.
Yeah.
They had Dennis O'Hare from American Horror Story and on other things, and he was really fun to listen to. Every once in a while he'll have a guest on that you go, that's somebody that I would actually want to listen to them talk.
Yeah.
That I actually want to know more about this person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan of the television show Community, and they had Yvette Nicole Brown from Community, and she was an awesome guest. I did not know she was a Prince superfan. It was a fun conversation to listen to. What?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, not nothing. It's a show. You got to keep talking. She looks like she wants to say something, and then she'll look at the mic and stop. Okay. Well, that's our intro episode, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We ran through our whole little guideline we wanted to go over.
Yeah.
If you have any more questions about us or the show, or what makes us tick, or what movies we're thinking about, or please communicate with us right on our podcast wall. Message our podcast, rate, review. Like I said, you can scream at my apartment window, love your show. I don't care if you stand outside my apartment and scream your show sucks. At least I know somebody's listening.
Or just stand out there with a boombox over your head.
Hey, you gotta be careful with the boombox.
Oh no.
It's, if you don't know, that's a Lonely Island. Andy Samberg's comedy rap group. It's a reference to them. But yeah, thank you for listening. Get a hold of us. Comment, rate, review, please. Share.
I love Cher.
She loves Cher. Cher. Why didn't I think of that? Okay. And we're recording this on the same day we recorded our Legally Blonde episode.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know what our next episode's going to be yet. I have a couple
We need ideas.
I have a couple ideas.
And we want people to come talk with us too.
Yeah. Meet with us in public first, because we don't know you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Come hang out with us and our dog.
If you have a special theme, something you want to talk about, like a movie with a special theme that you feel that you have a connection to, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
Might have you on as a guest star. We'll have to move the studio around because we only have 2 mics. But hopefully it'll work out. Thank you for listening. And adopt, don't shop.
And think pink.